In the dark corners of starports, in the silent shadows of palace towers, in the forgotten alleys of megacities, their names were whispered with dread. They were the invisible hand of death, trained in every art of silence, masters of poisons, blades, and hidden guns. Assassins were not soldiers who fought with honor. They were not mercenaries who demanded armies. They were shadows, striking once and leaving no trace. If a king grew too bold, assassins were hired. If a general led too many victories, assassins were sent. If a merchant gained too much wealth, assassins ended their rise. Across the stars, every race respected them, feared them, and paid them to do the work that no army could finish. But even shadows feared some contracts. Inside the guild hall of assassins, deep within the hollowed asteroid called Veil Rock, silence fell when the latest contract was announced. The guildmaster, an elder with skin like cracked stone and eyes that burned like coals, raised his claw and placed the glowing data cube in the center of the chamber. The cube's light flickered across the black walls, showing the details of the mission, the target, a human leader, the reward. 10 times the highest bounty ever offered in guild history. For a long moment, none spoke. Every assassin in the chamber simply stared at the cube. The air itself felt heavy, as if the asteroid knew the danger of the words inside. One of the younger assassins, scales shining under the dim lights, hissed in disbelief. 10 times the highest bounty. Enough to buy moons, enough to buy fleets. And the target is human? Murmurs rose around the chamber. Some laughed nervously. Others shook their heads. A few spat on the ground as if the very word human carried a curse. The guildmaster's voice was deep and calm, but behind it was something close to warning. Yes, a human governor of the frontier colonies. The client did not share why, only that the human must die. Payment will be instant upon proof. One assassin leaned forward, eyes glowing like knives. Then why hesitate? It is a human. Soft, new to the galaxy. Their worlds are small. Their fleets are weak. They are nothing. The chamber grew colder at his words. From the shadows, another voice, older and cracked, spoke with slow weight. You have not heard the stories, young one. Do you not know what happens to those who hunt humans? The young assassin sneered. Stories? Old lies told by failures. I am not afraid of farmers from a dirt world. The old one stepped closer into the light. His face was scarred and one eye was gone, replaced with a crude machine lens. He spoke quietly, but every ear listened. I once had a student. He was skilled, clever, faster than any blade. He was given a contract on a human scientist. He vanished. Weeks later, his ship was found drifting near a dead star. No wounds, no battle. But the hull bore scorch marks and the cockpit was burned black. No trace of my student, only silence. That was the first warning. The young assassin rolled his eyes. A ship accident? Nothing more. But more voices joined. A female assassin with 4 arms said, I knew another. She was sent to take a human soldier far from his army. She never returned. Her ship's black box sent one message before ending. They knew I was coming. Another assassin whispered, I lost my brother on Earth itself. He thought hunting on their homeworld would be easy. They found him before he even reached the city. The humans played with his traps, turned them against him. He begged for extraction. But by the time we reached orbit, his beacon was gone. Nothing remained. The chamber filled with whispers. They smell danger before it begins. They move like predators even when they sleep. They fight until nothing is left, even with broken bodies. The young assassin growled in defiance. Lies, all lies to keep the greatest contract for yourselves. I will prove you all wrong. The guildmaster slammed his claw on the stone table and silence fell again. His voice was grave. Be careful with your pride. The guild remembers. The guild records every mission, every success, every failure. Humans are not like the others. Their minds are strange. Their will is unbroken. Every assassin who hunted them has failed, and many never returned. Some contracts remain unpaid because the targets are still alive. He leaned closer, his burning eyes locking on the young one. The galaxy fears us, but even shadows know there are places where light cannot be killed. Humans are one of those places. Still, temptation was strong. 10 times the highest bounty. It could buy freedom from the guild. Enough wealth to live on a private world forever. The young assassin clenched his fists. I will take it. The chamber gasped. The guildmaster's eyes narrowed. So be it, the contract is yours. May your shadow not be your grave. The cube glowed brighter, sealing the bond. The young assassin bowed, then turned to leave, cloak whispering across the stone floor. Behind him, the older assassins muttered, "Fool. He will not return." Another name for the Wall of the Lost. Yet in their voices there was not only scorn, but also fear. When the young assassin's ship left Vale Rock, the guild chamber remained in silence for a long time. Each assassin thought of the same truth. The largest bounty in history was offered, and still none of them had wanted it, because deep inside, even killers knew, hunting humans was not profit. Hunting humans was a death sentence. The young assassin who had taken the contract called himself Kale. Among the guild, he was known for speed, patience, and pride. He believed fear was a weakness, and he hated how the older assassins whispered about humans as if they were ghosts. To him, it sounded like excuses made by those who had failed. Humans are flesh and blood, he told himself while piloting his sleek black ship through hyperspace. They can be cut. They can be poisoned. They can be broken, but still, deep in his chest, a seed of doubt stirred. The target was a human governor named Daniel, who ruled a frontier colony called Haven Reach. On maps, it looked small and unimportant, a world of forests, rivers, and storms, with one city shining like a jewel against endless wilderness. Kale expected easy prey. Yet when his ship dropped from hyperspace, Haven Reach did not look weak. The orbit was filled with satellites, drones, and listening posts. They did not glow with power like advanced alien defenses, but they were spread cleverly, covering every angle. It was the kind of system designed not with wealth, but with thought. Kale muttered, "Strange, poor world. Careful defenses." He slipped past the satellites with stealth systems, landing far from the human city. His plan was simple: study the humans first. Learn their movements. Strike when the moment was perfect. For 3 days, Kale moved like a shadow through the forests of Haven Reach. He saw humans at work, building roads through storms, repairing towers hit by lightning, farming rough land where predators prowled. What surprised him was not their strength, but their spirit. A storm broke on the second day, fierce enough to rip trees from the ground. Kale took cover in a rocky cave, but the humans did not hide. He saw them tying down roofs, pulling each other from floods, shouting orders even while rain blinded them. Where most species would panic, the humans laughed, cursed the storm, and worked harder. They act as if the world itself is an enemy, Kale whispered, watching from the shadows. And they fight it every day. On the third night, Kale made his move. The governor, Daniel, was traveling from the city to an outpost by riverboat. Kale followed silently, hiding his presence. He had studied the route, found the perfect place, a bend in the river where thick trees hid the banks. There he set his trap, a net of invisible lines strung across the river ready to slice the boat apart. When the boat appeared, Kale crouched, waiting. His eyes narrowed. The human governor stood at the front, coat blowing in the wind, talking with soldiers. He did not look afraid. The trap snapped. The riverboat hit the lines. But instead of tearing apart, the humans reacted instantly. Before Kale could even blink, the soldiers threw hooks into the water, dragging the lines aside. The governor shouted commands and the engines roared. The boat shot forward, breaking free of the trap. Kale froze. They saw it. They knew. The humans looked around, scanning the trees. One soldier raised a rifle, firing into the darkness exactly where Kale hid. He rolled aside, barely escaping. He had not made a sound, not moved a leaf. Yet somehow they had sensed him. The governor's voice carried over the river. "Stay sharp. Someone is out there." We don't get storms and traps on the same day without reason. The boat moved on, leaving Kale stunned. "How?" he whispered. How did they know? He retreated into the forest, shaken but not broken. Pride burned in him. It had only been the first attempt. He would strike again. Humans were clever, yes, but not untouchable. The next night, Kale infiltrated the outpost where Daniel slept. He slipped past guards, passed through vents, and entered the governor's quarters. The room was dark, the air still. On the bed lay a shape under blankets. Kyle drew his blade, silent as shadow. He stepped closer, raised his arm. The blankets exploded. In a blur, the governor himself leapt at him, tackling him to the ground. Soldiers burst from hidden corners, weapons raised. Kale hissed, twisting free, rolling across the floor. Blades flashed. Humans fired, but he moved too fast, diving through a window and vanishing into the night. He escaped again, but his chest pounded. Sweat ran down his scaled skin. He could not deny it now. The humans had been waiting. They had set a trap for him, as if they had known he would come. No one had ever done that before. For the first time in his career, Kyle felt fear. By the fourth day, Kyle had changed his methods. He stopped direct attacks and instead watched from a distance, trying to learn the truth. He studied Daniel carefully. The governor moved like a soldier, always alert. But it was not only him. Every human Kyle saw seemed the same. Farmers, miners, engineers, they walked with their eyes sharp, their shoulders ready. They were not prey. They were predators who happened to build cities. One moment burned itself into Kyle's mind. He watched a group of children playing near the colony wall. Suddenly alarms sounded. A wild beast larger than a hovercar charged from the forest. Kyle expected screams, chaos, a desperate attempt to flee. But the children did not run. They grabbed stones and sticks, shouting to distract the beast until soldiers arrived. One boy even threw himself in front of a younger child, holding up his stick like a spear. The soldiers killed the beast quickly, but Kyle could not forget the look in the boy's eyes. Fearless, ready to fight. Even as a child. Kyle returned to his ship that night, troubled. He replayed every attempt, every observation. The humans should have been easy targets. Instead, they had seen through traps, turned ambushes into counterattacks, and lived each day as if battle was natural. The old assassins had not been lying. Humans were different. Still, Kyle was not ready to give up. Pride chained him to the mission. The reward was too great and his honor too sharp. He would not return to the guild in shame, but in his heart the doubt grew stronger. He began to understand why the others had refused the contract. Humans were not like the galaxy's other races. They were not prey to be stalked. They were something else entirely. Kyle whispered to himself as stars burned above Haven Reach. If they are prey, then why do I feel like I am the one being hunted? Kyle returned to the forest after his failed attempts. His pride was wounded, but worse than pride was the fear now gnawing inside him. He had stalked governors, generals, and warlords across the galaxy. He had killed soldiers in their beds, poisoned leaders in their palaces, ended rulers guarded by armies. None had unsettled him like this. Humans were not supposed to be so difficult. They were new to the stars. Their fleets were small. Their weapons were crude compared to older races. Yet somehow they had seen his traps, turned his ambushes into escapes, and fought back with a unity that no other species showed. Kyle hid in the shadows, watching Daniel, the human governor. The man worked day and night, speaking with his people, leading from the front, never afraid to stand in storms or face beasts. And always his eyes were sharp, as if expecting danger. It was as though the humans lived their whole lives knowing someone might strike at them. Kyle sent coded messages back to the guild, reporting his progress. He did not admit failure, but the guild could sense it. Weeks passed, and still the human lived. The whispers began. In the guild hall on Vale Rock, assassins gathered in small groups, their voices low. Kyle still has not finished the contract. Strange. He is skilled, too skilled to delay. Or perhaps the stories are true. Perhaps he has already failed and the humans are playing with him. The older assassins nodded grimly. They had seen it before. Missions that stretched longer than they should, reports filled with silence, hunters who returned broken, or never returned at all. One young assassin laughed nervously. You all speak of humans as if they are gods. They are flesh and blood. They can be cut. They can be killed. But even as he spoke, his eyes shifted. Doubt touched every word. The guildmaster remained silent, but his mind was heavy. He remembered too many lost names carved on the wall of the guild, each tied to a human contract. And now Kyle, proud Kyle, walked the same dark path. On Haven Reach, Kyle continued to test his enemy. One night he poisoned the river that fed the city. On other worlds, such an attack would kill thousands before it was noticed. But here, humans noticed within hours. They shut down the water, boiled what they had, and hunted the poison to its source. Kyle barely escaped before patrols reached his hiding place. Another day, he planted explosives in the forest near the city's supply routes. But the humans found the charges before the caravan arrived. They had patrols everywhere, checking for danger as if expecting it. How? Kyle muttered in frustration. How do they see everything? Then came the worst moment. Kyle was moving through the forest at night when he realized he was not alone. He froze, senses sharp. Around him the trees were silent. Too silent. A branch snapped. Kale spun, blades ready. Shadows moved between the trees. But they were not his shadows. They were human soldiers, spread out in a hunting pattern. They moved without words, signaling with hands. Their eyes scanned every bush, every rock. For the first time in his life, Kale felt hunted. He slipped into the darkness, vanishing with every skill he had. But even then, the humans followed. They tracked him by broken branches, by the faintest heat left on the ground. He escaped only by diving into a storm drain that carried him far from the patrols. He climbed out hours later, dripping, shaken, and cold. His pride was shattered. "They are not prey," he whispered. "They are predators who pretend to farm." The guild demanded updates. Kale's messages grew shorter, darker. He claimed progress, but his words carried unease. And the other assassins noticed. Whispers spread faster. "Kale cannot finish. The humans are watching him. They say the humans fight like beasts, even their children. Perhaps the humans let him live?" To send fear back to us, the guild began to argue. Some wanted to send more assassins together, to overwhelm the humans. Others warned it was suicide. One elder slammed his hand on the stone table. "Fools, do you not see? The humans learn. Every time one of us strikes, they grow sharper, faster, harder. Send more, and you only teach them more ways to kill us." The chamber fell silent at those words. For the first time in memory, assassins, beings who feared nothing, were afraid of a target. Kyle, meanwhile, grew more desperate. His pride chained him to the mission, but his instincts screamed to run. He told himself he only needed the perfect chance. Just one mistake from the humans, and the contract would be his, but the mistake never came. One evening, Kyle tried again. He infiltrated the governor's home, this time through the water system. He crept through tunnels, moving like a shadow, silent as air. He reached the chamber where Daniel worked, alone at a desk. Kyle raised his weapon. His aim was perfect, but before he could fire, Daniel spoke without looking up. "You've been busy these weeks. Storms, traps, poisons. You must be tired." Kale froze. How did the human know? Daniel turned slowly, his eyes calm but sharp as steel. "You're good. Better than most I've heard of. But you made one mistake." Kale's throat tightened. "What mistake?" "You thought humans don't notice, but we do. We always do." Soldiers burst from hidden doors, weapons ready. Kale cursed, throwing smoke and vanishing again. He escaped into the night, but his heart pounded. They had known he was there. Again. This was no longer a mission. This was survival. Back on Veil Rock, the guild listened to Kale's latest message. His voice was tight, strained. "The humans, they are not like others. They sense danger. They fight as one. They turn every trap back on me. I will not lie, the contract is not simple. It is death. If I fail to return, let this be a warning." The message ended. For a long moment the chamber was silent. Then the whispers rose like wind through dry leaves. The stories are true. He admits it. Even Kale cannot do it. Then who among us can? No one answered. Even assassins, feared across the stars, now felt the shadow of dread. And the truth spread beyond the guild. Traders whispered it in bars. Smugglers spoke of it on hidden channels. Soldiers told it to each other in hushed tones. Hunting humans is no contract. Hunting humans is suicide. Kale sat in his ship that night, staring at the stars. He could not give up. His pride would not let him. But in his heart, he finally admitted the truth. He was not the hunter anymore. The humans were hunting him, and sooner or later they would catch him. The guild hall of assassins on Veil Rock had never been so tense. Whispers filled the chambers, rolling across the stone floors like a rising storm. Kale's last transmission had arrived, brief and trembling yet clear. "The humans, they are impossible. They turn every attack into a counter. I will not lie. I fear my life is at risk." The guildmaster held the glowing cube in his claw, the symbol of the contract. Around him, assassins of all kinds, scaled, clawed, and faceless, gathered, eyes wide. Some twitched with fear. Others clenched fists in frustration. The young and ambitious spoke first, their voices eager. "Then we send more assassins. We strike together. With enough skill, the humans will fall." The guildmaster's eye glinted, sharp as broken glass. "Do you not see what you suggest? 10 assassins, 50 assassins. Everyone will fail as Kale has. Worse, you will teach the humans more. Every attempt they survive strengthens them. Every trap we set, every blade we hide, they will learn faster than we can strike again. A few younger assassins muttered among themselves, impatient. We are the guild. We fear nothing. We can overcome any target. The guildmaster slammed his claw on the stone table. The sound echoed like a cannon blast. Fools, do you not remember the Wall of the Lost? All eyes turned toward the oldest section of the guild, where plaques recorded the names of assassins who had vanished on human contracts. One plaque glowed faintly, etched with the name of Kale's predecessor. That one, the guildmaster said, was trained by the best. He attempted a contract on a human scholar. He disappeared before he even reached the city. His body was never found. Only his ship drifted, burned and empty. Do you still doubt the stories? The younger assassins shifted uncomfortably. Pride was strong, but fear had begun to creep in. The guildmaster continued, his voice low but heavy with authority. Humans are unlike any race we have hunted. They do not flee. They do not panic. They think, they plan, they fight. And when they fall, they rise again, stronger than before. They adapt. They survive. And they protect each other with an instinct we do not understand. One assassin, small and wiry, finally whispered what many thought. You mean, we cannot kill them? Yes, said the guildmaster. We cannot. The chamber went silent. For the first time, assassins, the most feared beings in the galaxy, felt powerless. A target, a single species, stood beyond their reach. Even Kale, whose skill had been unmatched, could not succeed. A debate began. Some assassins argued that Kale had failed because he acted alone. We need a coordinated strike. 50 assassins at once. They cannot survive 50 shadows. But the elders shook their heads. One voice, old and gravelly, spoke slowly. You do not understand. We do not strike the humans alone, together, or with tricks. Every attempt teaches them more. Each death we cause is returned tenfold. They will turn our strength into weakness, and worse. He paused, letting the words hang in the air. As they will remember. Every human who survives carries the lesson. You think we fight one human, but in reality, we fight every human who comes after. The younger assassins trembled. The truth sank into their bones. Finally, the guildmaster made a decision. His claw moved over the table and a red light glowed on the data cube. No human contracts. Not for gold. Not for power. Not for pride. The risk is too high. The reward is meaningless. We will mark this rule in the guild records. Let no one forget it. The chamber erupted in whispers again, some relieved, some bitter. Prideful assassins protested. We are the guild. We fear nothing. Why should humans be any different? The guildmaster's eyes blazed. Because they are different. Every assassin who tried before you proves it. The humans have survived attacks we believed impossible. They have turned our strategies against us. They are alive because we underestimated them. If you do not respect that truth, you will join the Wall of the Lost yourself. The youngest assassins went silent. Pride had been shaken by the evidence and by fear. Kale, watching from afar on Haven Reach, had received word of the guild's decision. At first he had been furious. He had risked everything for a bounty he believed he could claim. He had imagined returning to the guild with triumph, wealth, and fame. But now he realized they were right. He had underestimated the humans. More than that, he had been lucky to survive this long. For the first time, Kale allowed himself to look at the humans not as prey, but as something else. Strong, clever, fearless. He watched Governor Daniel move among his people, giving orders, laughing at storms, calming arguments. He watched soldiers patrol the forests, engineers repair broken bridges, farmers build traps to protect their crops from wild beasts. And he noticed how every human worked together, every action precise, every person aware of danger, even in the simplest moments. They are incredible, Kyle whispered. He realized why the guild had refused. Humans were not just strong fighters. They were survivors in the truest sense. Even against stealth, poison, traps, or shadows, they thrived. They adapted faster than anyone could predict. Kale looked at his weapons, his traps, his ships. All the tools of his craft had failed. He felt the weight of humility for the first time in his life. In the guild, the decision spread. No assassin dared take another human contract. Not Kale, not any other hunter. The whispers of fear grew louder, traveling from one system to another. Traders, smugglers, and soldiers all began to hear the stories. Humans were not just another species. They were something the galaxy had to respect. Meanwhile, Kyle returned to Haven Reach one evening, sitting atop a hill that overlooked the colony. The sun was setting, casting orange light over forests and rivers. He saw children playing, adults working, and the governor himself walking among them, smiling, unaware of the shadow that had tried to end his life. Kale understood now. Humans were not weak. They were not fragile. And they were not to be underestimated. "They are more than hunters," he muttered. "They are legends in their own right." The human world seemed calm, almost serene. Yet Kale could sense the strength beneath the surface, the silent courage in every person he saw. And for the first time, he felt something he had never expected: respect. That respect was mixed with fear, for Kale knew the Guild would not forget this lesson easily. They would spread the story across the stars. Every assassin would remember it. Every contract would be measured against this one truth: even the greatest hunters cannot strike humans and survive. The decision of the Guild marked a turning point in galactic history. Humans became more than frontier settlers, more than farmers and miners. They became a standard by which all others measured danger. Even the most feared beings in the galaxy, the assassins themselves, recognized that the humans were untouchable, not because of power alone, but because of their will, their spirit, and their unbroken courage. And Kale? He sat silently on that hill, knowing he had survived when so many before him had vanished. He understood that the humans he had sought to kill had changed him forever. "They may not even know it," he said softly, "but they are legends already, and I am lucky to have lived to see it." As the sun sank below the horizon, the stars above Haven Reach began to glow. Kale stared at them, silent and thoughtful. The galaxy had tried to challenge humanity and failed, and the humans, without knowing it, had proven that even the shadows of death themselves must respect them. Kale did not return to Veil Rock after the Guild's final decision. He no longer wanted wealth, fame, or recognition among the assassins. He had seen the humans in their world up close, and what he had witnessed changed him forever. The humans of Haven Reach were unlike anything he had encountered: clever, fearless, united, and always alert. To strike them was not just dangerous, it was impossible. Instead, Kale stayed on Haven Reach, watching, learning, and reflecting. The humans went about their lives, unaware of the shadows that had hunted them. Farmers worked the fields, children played along the riverbanks, soldiers patrolled in silence, and Governor Daniel walked among his people, strong and calm. Kale realized that humanity's strength was not in weapons or numbers alone, but in spirit, unity, and instinct. Word of Kale's failure spread slowly at first. Guild members whispered to each other, sending cautious messages to allied networks, then to other guilds across the galaxy. Traders passing through knew to speak in hushed tones about the human frontier, where even assassins feared to tread. The legend grew quickly. Assassins, the most feared hunters in the galaxy, had been stopped by humans. The thought spread fear among the Guild, then among the mercenaries, and finally throughout the criminal networks. Humans were no longer considered a simple species to be manipulated or eliminated. It began with small warnings. A Guild elder sent messages to distant systems: "Do not accept contracts on humans. Do not attempt to hunt them. Their survival instinct is unmatched, and their fight is relentless." Some laughed at first. They could not believe it. "Flesh and blood cannot outsmart trained killers," they said. But the stories kept coming. Entire teams vanished while trying to approach human colonies. Ships returned empty. Messages stopped mid-transmission. All reported the same: humans had seen them, fought them, and survived. Even governments and corporate leaders began to take notice. Frontier worlds where humans lived were approached with caution. Diplomats spoke in careful tones. Traders negotiated protection deals instead of trying to conquer or deceive. Across the stars, the message was clear: humans were untouchable. Meanwhile, Kale learned more about the humans he had tried to hunt. He followed Governor Daniel and his people through daily life, observing their resilience. When a massive storm struck Haven Reach, flattening forests and flooding rivers, humans did not panic. They organized. They helped each other. Soldiers, engineers, and civilians worked together to save their homes and rebuild infrastructure faster than any alien race Kale had seen could respond to disaster. He saw small details too: children learning to identify danger, citizens improvising tools to repair broken machines, and farmers setting traps to protect crops from predators that could crush them in minutes. Every act demonstrated intelligence, patience, and courage. Every person acted as a part of a living network of protection. Cale finally understood. Humans were not merely resilient. They were adaptable. Every failure he had experienced was a lesson to them. Every trap he had set, every ambush he had tried, had been studied, countered, and used to teach others. Humans learn from danger naturally. It was in their blood, their minds, and their culture, and yet they never gave up. On one evening, Cale watched from a hill as Governor Daniel spoke to his people. The governor's voice carried across the open fields. Storms will pass, predators will come, challenges will rise, but together we will face them all. No one stands alone. The humans listened. They worked. They laughed. They prepared. Cale felt awe mixed with a strange relief. They were not afraid. He had expected fear. But humans were different. Fear was a tool, not a cage. Cale realized why the guild had refused human contracts. Humans were not only strong, they were untouchable by conventional methods. No stealth, no poison, no ambush could break them. The guild's decision had not been born from cowardice, but from recognition of an undeniable truth. Humans could not be hunted like other species. Weeks later, Cale decided to send a final message to the guild. He used a secure channel, his voice steady, yet filled with the weight of his experience. The humans of Haven Reach are unlike anything we have faced. They sense danger before it arrives. They act together. They adapt. They fight back. Do not attempt another contract. Not for profit, not for pride. If you try, you will fail and you may not return. This is a warning, not a suggestion. The message spread quickly, becoming legend. Other assassins began leaving human contracts untouched, even if offered unimaginable rewards. Even the most reckless hunters started to avoid human worlds, sharing the story of Cale's survival as a cautionary tale. In time, humans themselves remained unaware of the full extent of the fear they inspired. Traders and smugglers spread stories, but the humans continued their lives focused on their communities and survival. Cale occasionally joined Governor Daniel on missions to repair damaged towns or patrol the forests. From these experiences, he continued to witness the extraordinary courage of ordinary humans. One day, Cale reflected on the years he had spent trying to complete the contract. He had learned a lesson that went beyond fear or respect. Humans had an instinct, a drive, and an unbroken spirit that no assassin, no guild, no weapon could overcome. Their survival was not luck. It was part of their nature. The galaxy had underestimated humans for centuries. But now the truth could not be hidden. Humans were more than clever fighters. They were guardians of their worlds, thinkers of impossible solutions, and warriors in every sense. They could face storms, predators, war, and death and survive. Cale thought of his own experience. He had believed himself the hunter, but the humans had shown him another reality. In their presence, he had been the hunted. Every move he made had been countered, every trap undone, every attempt anticipated. He had survived, but only because the humans had chosen not to notice him entirely. The humans had become legends before they even knew it. Across the galaxy, news of assassins failing to hunt humans spread to alien governments, mercenaries, and traders. The whispers turned into caution. Contracts were canceled. Fleets avoided human worlds, and the word passed from one system to another. Even the greatest hunters say no. Hunting humans is a death sentence. Cale sometimes smiled when he thought of the humans laughing, working, and building, completely unaware of the fear they inspired in the shadows of the galaxy. To them, life was about survival, growth, and protection. To the rest of the galaxy, it became a warning, a lesson in humility. In the quiet moments, Cale returned to the hill overlooking Haven Reach. Stars burned above him, and the colony glowed softly below. He thought of the guild, of the assassins, of the countless beings who had once underestimated humans. They had all learned the same truth. Humans were untouchable, unstoppable, and unforgettable, and the galaxy, finally, would never forget it. Cale stood, taking one last look at the colony. The humans below continued their lives, strong and unaware guardians of a secret power. Courage, intelligence, and will stronger than any weapon, he whispered softly, almost to himself. Even the assassins have learned humans are the true force of this galaxy. And with that, Kale turned toward the stars, ready to leave Haven Reach, but carrying the knowledge of humanity's unstoppable spirit across the galaxy. A warning, a lesson, and a story that would echo for generations. Because some truths, no matter how unbelievable, must be remembered. Even the assassins said no. Hunting humans was a death sentence, and the humans lived unbroken, unconquered, and legends in their own time.